I really can't understand these players who, again, as you said, signed an extension last year. His contract for, what, another 5 years or whatever. We saw how brilliant he was last year. And then he's coming up with all that nonsense on the eve of a big, big game. If I was a teammate of his, I'd kick him up and down the training pitch. Some of the senior players have got to get hold of him. A talented boy, but his attitude, even last night, he's like a spoiled child. He's just absolutely ridiculous.
Question is here, John O'Shea's got to play on Monday night. It's a ridiculous question, and I'm going to give you a ridiculous answer. Of course not. Crazy. We've got other lads, the McShanes, the Wilsons, the Keoghs, the Pearces. You know, they're not 11 years of age, these lads. To say players have got to start the game for us. No, yeah. I think you had a late night last night, did you? No, come on. You know, you got to play the game. Why? I'm going to sit here and say John O'Shea's got to play on Monday night. Yeah, cuckoo land, man. Cuckoo land. Fury.
Yes and no. As I said, clubs are going to be selfish. They're going to look after their own players. I think we're lucky with the Everton lads when we've had a problem previously with Martinez. I think he was slightly over the top every time we felt the Everton players were turning up, and it's not criticism of the players. This is more from the Everton and their staff, that they're always carrying knocks, and I always felt the Everton players were going to like turn up on crutches or crawling in the hotel door. And now it looks like we're probably going to have that issue again with Koeman. Hopefully not. Maybe Everton, I think, is a football club. I'm not sure when the last time they won a trophy. I think it was a good number of years ago. Maybe this overloading players and players playing lots of games is a good thing. That means your club's been successful and lads are playing week in, week out, playing midweek games. But Everton, they don't play any European football. I think they're out of the League Cup. I think Norwich beat them at Goodison. So maybe Everton as a club need to, and it's a brilliant football club, maybe their players need to toughen up a little bit. No, not really, no. Why? Why do we need a good relationship with Everton?
Just presumed you...
No, listen, they're lucky to have the Irish lads they've got there. And Everton traditionally have always had brilliant Irish players doing well for the football club. So they shouldn't be so quick to stop Irish players coming to play for Ireland. I've experienced that myself. And as I said, I can understand a little bit, but if a player is fit to travel and feels he can play the game, particularly in a qualifying game, I think there's always a bit more understanding when there's friendlies going on, then they should get their heads around that. Because, for example, Seamus and James, particularly if you look at Seamus Coleman, what a player he's been for Everton. So why would they try and begrudge Ireland having these players available to us? Darren Gibson's Irish. Gibbo misses lots of games for Everton, a hell of a lot of games, and he seems to get injured a lot at Everton. So maybe they need to look at their own I suppose, training schedule. So Koeman's opinions, honestly, there's no issues with me. I couldn't care less, to be honest with you.
You know, he is a decent player. He's had a brilliant career, but it's just, it turns my stomach. It's absolutely disgusting why he's trying to get other players into trouble. And his reaction, and again, it's up to some of his teammates. Yeah. Maybe not tonight, because I'm sure they'll be busy celebrating. Yeah. But somebody at the club or a senior player to pull him and say, listen, cut that out. But we've seen him doing it for years. No doubt he's not going to change. No.
You'd say to him, you're embarrassing yourself, you're embarrassing us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So guys that know each other really well, and brothers, family members, but to be chatting behind their hands with each other, did this bother you?
Yeah, it does, but... Listen, he's the boy Pogba, he seems a bit of a free spirit and a bit of a character, but I think it was a little bit over the top tonight, would it be, before the game at half-time. Like, they've spoke to each other more tonight than I think I've spoke to any of my brothers in the last 5 years, so all a bit strange, and they're probably chatting as we speak after the game. But I think when the game started, they were focused on the game, all this stuff before and after the game, a lot of nonsense, but that's the modern player, I'm afraid.
Robbie... Why wouldn't he be?
Well, his wife just had a baby, and I think that might have delayed his arrival.
Yeah, but he didn't have the baby, did he? Unless he's breastfeeding, he should be all right.
And even the supporters, they all have to change their mentality. It's just nonsense from players speaking after the games about how great the supporters are. Listen, the supporters want to see the team doing a lot better and not giving daft goals away like that. So, no, listen, I'm not too happy with all that nonsense again. And praise the supporters for the sake of it. Listen, let's change that attitude towards Irish supporters as well. Listen, they want to see the team winning as well. Let's not kid ourselves. I know we're a small country and listen, we're up against it, but let's not just go along for the sing-song every now and again.
It's tough at the moment because I think particularly we deserve better than what we're getting, and I think the players deserve better than that, and I really can't fault my players today. I thought they had a good goal, and sometimes things are out of your control, like decisions which we can't do much about.
And people are going to ask me to ask you, are you going to stay on?
I refuse to answer that question.
We'll take that as a yes then.
Take it whatever you want. I think, did he bend the rules a little bit? Yeah, but we see cheating going on all the time in games. Players dive in. When I'm asked about it, I say, yeah, the game is full of it.
But should it be stopped, the cheating?
Yeah, of course. Nobody wants to cheat. Whose phone is that? That's the second time it's gone off.
Oh, it's my phone, sorry.
Why did you turn it off? No, that's the second time it's gone off. Why don't you put it on silent?
No, it's not the second time.
Well, why don't you turn it off?
Well, I'll turn it off in a minute.
You're just going to let it ring?
Well, I thought I'd let it ring out.
All right, that's good manners.
He looks about as amazed at the rest of us as what we've just seen, sort of shocked.
That interview was just like the performance, flat. No.
What do you want him to do? Just fall at Gabriel's feet crying? I mean,
Well, say something. Say a bit more urgency in even his interview. That just reflected United's performance tonight. Flat, no urgency. And they keep saying, oh, well, next game. For some of them, there won't be another game for them. That's the reality for it.
What spoke volumes for me is all the Greek fans sitting in front of us, Roy. When the goal went in, they all stood up and went ballistic and celebrated, then turned around and apologised to you. They seemed to almost feel sorry for you.
Well, they shouldn't feel sorry for me. Obviously, they were just enjoying their own team's performance. I think they were looking at me, probably thinking, what's happened to Man United?
Well, exactly.
As if I had the answer from, we were just watching it. And as I said, we'll obviously analyse Man United, but Olympiacos, I think, surprised us tonight. They were very, very good.
This player goes off and they fall apart.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'll see you next week.
No, exactly. We go back to, again, leaders in the game, being organised at the back. When you're not at your best, again, you're talking about taking your medicine. If you're 2 or 3-1 down, just steady on, stay in the game. I think it reflects tonight. When I see Gibbs with the captain's armband on at the end of the game, you're in big trouble. If he's your captain or your leader, if he's a guy that's going to bring everybody together, you're in huge trouble. And I agree with you. I don't think Bayern were at their very best tonight. They didn't have to be. The goals Arsenal gave away, schoolboy stuff.
So your relationship with Sir Alex Ferguson is now total non-existent. What would you do if you met him now? What would you do? I
haven't got a clue. Truthfully, I'd probably have a go at him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Why not?
And what would you say?
Just why are you talking nonsense about us? Why are you talking rubbish about me and other lads who've done well? Yeah, I'd probably say that to him. And he'd probably defend himself. He'd probably take a run and jump as you'd expect. But I just don't see why we have to sit back and accept it. And people go, well, it was always about power and control for him, and he thinks he can do that now. And I'm 43 years of age. Well, am I supposed to be frightened of him or scared of these people? You got to take him on. So, and football's a small world, so I'm pretty sure we will cross each other.
Yeah.
It's took him a while to get settled, hasn't it?
10 years is quite a
10
long
years
time.
at the club, and listen, he's had a good week. The guy needs to relax. Try and play well for the next 7, 8, 9 months. When the real big crunch games come, and you're on about looking at certain players for Arsenal, and go, listen, tonight was a lovely game for Arsenal. When Arsenal are in that form and have that much possession, they're great to watch. They could have scored 7, 8, 9 goals easily. Joy to watch. But the crunch games are coming up for them over the next few months, when the cold nights come in, and we'll see maybe half the Arsenal player with their gloves on. So I wouldn't be getting carried away with Walcott. He's got a lot to do. Lovely goals tonight. His simplicity, his movement, his finishing, outstanding. But he's got to do it over the course of the next year or two.
Now for him then, because it looks like he's losing his place in the everything starting.
Advice for who?
For James McCarthy. Looks like he's losing his starting place at Everton. Looks like Koeman doesn't really fancy him. How would you advise him?
I don't know if that's true or not. Did he not start against West Brom?
He did, but then he got an injury concern and he's been playing wing back instead. And
right. Well, if you know something more than me.
No, I don't. I'm just wondering, you were
Did he not start against West Brom?
I think he was dropped for one of the games.
No, did he start against West Brom 2 weeks ago, I think?
I think he did, yeah.
And he was injured for the game against Stoke.
The League Cup game, yeah. But
So if that's a player out of his manager's plans, then what about all the other players who started against West Brom?
well, he has been linked with the move away. That's why I asked.
Listen, everyone gets linked with stuff.
Yeah.
Just do your homework. Well, obviously they've kept him on. They've not sold him, have they? So I think maybe the manager does like him. Nonsense.
8-4. Great to watch. You didn't think an awful lot of the leads you're defending?
No, I thought it was so bad. The goalkeepers, I think the two centre-halves, they were like right-side Fred, the two lads at the back. Really poor, my goodness.
But he does appear to have a bit of swagger back, doesn't he, Mourinho?
Yeah, which is a pity, really, because obviously the guy, you like to see a bit more humility, but you knew once they'd start winning a few games, yeah, he'd get back to his old cocky self. Yeah, well, it was always going to be a good option when United didn't know they qualified for the Champions League. He was available, fantastic CV, and seems like a good fit. Maybe not for me. He's not my kind of cup of tea. I find him really irritating when I've coached against him. But that's just a personal thing.
Is it good for Real Madrid? He's been at Inter Milan, where they do move matches to help those clubs in European competitions. But to go back to our original point, they don't have the huge domestic TV deals that we have.
I've never heard so much rubbish in my life. Why do we have to listen to that garbage? It's just utter nonsense what he's talking about. He's manager of Manchester United, one of the biggest clubs on the planet. The squad, he's got the players, and he keeps moaning about fixtures and fatigue. We were just looking at some of the cup draws they've had. They've had an easy ride in the cup. Some good draws, a lot of home draws. And the guy's talking absolute nonsense. Never heard so much rubbish in my life. Is it? Maybe the club's too big for him. He can't deal with all these demands of the matches. What matches? Cup competitions. They played Man United reserves could have won that game tonight. Nah, I'm sick to death of him.
Do you think it rubs off on the players? I mean, he looked a bit anxious and a bit irritated tonight. Does it rub off on the players when a manager behaves like that?
If his moves like that all the time, they'll pick up on that around the training ground. After the Chelsea game the other night, he deflected away from the performance. He kept talking about the travel arrangements, the sending offs.
I think if you, I think.
Can I ask you one question? Where did Man United go pre-season? Where did they?
Well, they wanted to go to. Well, they and Man City wanted to play in Beijing.
Yeah, and he's worried about fatigue and for the players. Well, don't go to these.
If a manager goes out of his way to put excuses there, you're giving the players an excuse. If they play poorly, they come back, they've got all the excuses. He can't have it both ways. For me, it's as I said, that interview could have been done before the game. He knew what he was doing with the banana that we're going to see in a minute. Because it was helping to make his point after the game. So
he's making the point with the banana, getting the banana onto the pitch is making the point.
We're talking about bananas, we're talking about, let's say we were poor today, but you know what? Good sign if you're poor and you win the game.
But he's talking about the player collapsing. That was easier than a training session. A good tough training session. You have 11v11 on the training pitch. That was easier than that. And he's talking about players collapsing. Yeah. Oh, what rubbish!